ऑन करो क्या चीज
So, hello everyone. Very good evening to all of you. My name is Umesh. I'm heading ETF sales at Mirae Asset Mutual Fund. As a promise, we have been talking to all of you about multiple aspects. Last time we discussed about gold and silver. Now, as you know, what is happening in the world, especially between Iran, US, and all. And I think there is something which is the need of some specific theme has emerged, not now, maybe last few years. And I think now it's a good time to talk about that also. So, today we're going to talk about something which is, I'm sure everybody is listening, reading, and maybe thinking about what is going to happen, and that's defense. Because we believe that defense is something which is now the core for every country, and the way now nations are moving from survival to take positions, and that way I think a need for spending and taking a pole position in defense makes a lot of sense. I think if I look at the overall investment scenario or environment in India, specifically with defense as we speak right now, the overall number of products in defense currently are, you can say, six products are already there, including active and passive fund, and with a total AUM as on January 2026 around 14,000 crore and 14,000 plus crores. And I think investors are also showing a lot of interest in this. And now again, this I won't say debate, but the discussion between active passive comes in, that we always advocating that something, especially when you want to go for a theme, especially I think passives can also always lead that space. And I think today for to discuss on that part, we are very happy to say that we have Mr. We have a very prominent speaker from industry, Mr. Ashutosh Singh. I'll just introduce the speakers first. So we have Ashutosh Singh, who is MD and CEO at BSC Index Service Provider Private Limited, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of BSC. Ashutosh is a financial service industry veteran with an over 22 years of experience spanning exchange businesses, indexing, broking, mutual fund, and banking. Currently, he is the MD and CEO at BSC Index Services Private Limited, which is wholly owned subsidiary of BSC. He works with market participants to offer suitable indexing solution, advocates for passive investing, and encourages retail investors to begin their investment journey through mutual fund. He works collectively with industry associations and regulations or key issues of strategic importance. So I think he is the right person to speak about anything related to passive, because today we're going to speak about few indices also, especially one index which is being created by BSC only, which is BSC India Defense Index. So and we have a second speaker, which is, I'm sure you all know, Mr. Siddharth Srivastav, who is head of product as well as fund manager at Mirae Asset. You have been hearing him from last so many years. He will also touch upon about this index, also about related to market related queries and all. Towards the end of this session, we'll take questions also. If you have anybody has any questions, please put in chat box or raise it so that we can pick those questions depending upon how much time we have at the end of it. So without taking much time, Ashutosh, I just would like to jump into with you, and I just want to discuss a very important thing, which is for the audience, if you can help us or our audience understand the method behind this BSC India Defense Index, how the stock selection takes place, how this idea came into your mind, and what is the thought behind when you started making this index, and how it is what in audience should keep in mind while understanding or listening or reading about this index.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Umesh. Thank you, Team Mirai, for having BSC Index Private Limited participate and contribute our views on such an important topic, given the current geopolitical realities of today. Uh, and in fact, before I dive into your question, specific question on the methodology, let me take an extra moment to explain the thinking behind launching an index which was based on the defense theme. In the last few years, we've seen, as far as defense in the country goes, India is seeing a transformative phase. Clearly, there is a lot of policy thrust. We are seeing increased budgetary allocations. There is a lot of focus on indigenous manufacturing of defense equipments. Uh, in fact, if you were to just look at the budgetary allocations today, among all the ministries, defense clearly is enjoying the highest budgetary allocation of about 14% across all ministries. The allocation in terms of quantitative numbers is close to 7 lakh crore, right? And apart from just the quantitative numbers, there's been some qualitative shifts as well. So India is moving towards becoming very self-sufficient. Today, about 65% of India's defense equipment needs are being met through indigenous manufacturing. India's defense exports, in fact, has picked up by 35 times in this, under this new government, under the Modi government in the last 10 to 12 years. So while obviously we are speaking of a very small base, but the reality is today about 35,000 crores of defense equipments are being exported out of the country. And so given all this background, we felt that the as an index company, we have to take a national economic theme and make it accessible, make it measurable, and make it actionable for investors to also participate in. So that was the thinking behind launching the index. It obviously came in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, and where which kind of gave an impetus to the whole defense industry of India, because in the defense world, there is a term which is very popular called combat tested. So the equipments that we were manufacturing got combat tested in the Operation Sindoor, and which is why we saw some inbound interest in the defense space in India. So, given all these realities, given the policy thrust, given the increased budgetary allocations, we felt the timing was right to launch an index, which kind of puts the spotlight and makes it an actionable investable theme for the investor community at large. Now, specifically on the methodology of the index, like all the indices that we have in BSE indices, this one too has a parent universe. So the parent universe for the BSE Defense Index is BSE 1000. And then in the next step, what we do is basically in the BSE 1000 universe, uh, we have we have basically divided it into two categories. There are three basic industries identified, which are part of category one. So we call it the core defense category. So 75% of the allocation uh, in the index is for companies that are part of three basic industries, and about 25% is selected from companies that are outside these three basic industries, but which have a significant play in the defense area. So there is a Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers (SIDM). So we basically look at the SIDM list, and companies that are part of the SIDM list and have a decent amount of revenues coming from defense activities are part of this index. So basically, just to give you some names, so armored trucks, arms and ammunition, defense communication, so on and so forth. These are companies that are coming from the SIDM list who have a significant play in the defense space. And the core basic industry that we're talking about are aerospace and defense, explosives, shipbuilding, and allied services. So, long way to say that the index is basically comprised of three basic industries, all constituents that are part of the three basic industries, and constituents, 25% of the allocation is from constituents that are part of the SIDM, which is Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers, having a significant play in the defense area. So that at a high level is how the index is constructed, and obviously it comes from BSE 1000 as a parent universe. So yeah,
Okay.
over
Fair.
to
I
you.
think thanks for this detailed answer. I think still few detail I need to re understand. So maybe
Yeah.
Siddharth, can you help me because there's one question which I'm sure when I was talking to many clients, they also asked me, and I found this a good opportunity to ask you also. There is another index on the same in defense space.
Yeah.
Why you chose or you find this index better than that? Maybe if you can add what Ashutosh has just mentioned, will be helpful for maybe answer many questions in client's mind.
Yeah. So, see, Umesh and everyone who is listening, there can be multiple approach to solve one problem, right? And similarly, there can be multiple approach to target a certain theme or a strategy. Uh, there is one index which selects only defense classified companies, right? Or companies which are having more than, I think, 10% of revenues from defense to form part of that portfolio. And that index consists of just 18 companies with top stock having 20%. That index is also good. But when we were thinking about defense, we were thinking about an entire value chain, right? Because right now it is not just uh, top PSUs. There are a lot of private companies also which are becoming increasingly important in defense value chain, defense enablers, etc. So when we 3 years back, when we used to think about defense, what used to come in our mind? Companies like uh, HAL, companies like BEL, Solar Industries, etc. Now when we think about defense, what comes in our mind apart from those companies is also MTAR Technologies, Data Patterns, Bharat Forge, etc., which just highlight that the entire value chain is increasing significantly. The playground is no more confined to two, three players. It is actually players who are bringing in high tech and innovation, new age tech are going to be the more popular players, and their growth will be significant, right? And that is why the index which we like, which BSE has constructed, takes, first of all, not only just pure play companies, defense companies, but also consider companies which are part of SIDMs, which are already building key components for defense, etc. L&T, for example, Umesh, builds so many defense equipments from submarines to missiles, etc. If you're looking at private company like Bharat Forge, they are building missile platforms and armored vehicles, etc. When you are talking about drones, we are talking about now Adani entering into this space. When you're talking about Rafale deal, it's about कि offset HAL को नहीं मिलेगा, किसी और प्राइवेट प्लेयर को मिलेगा. So what BSE did was they first of all looked at a larger universe of 1,000 companies. They selected both pure play defense player as well as key enablers, which are producing these important weapons, armored vehicles, etc. And that is why their portfolio is 34 companies strong, and which can grow as more and more companies participate in defense space. So I believe that this portfolio which BSE has created is more future proof. Had I invested 3 years back, I would have invested in top three, four companies because they were the relevant names of that time. But now, if I have to pick a index, I'll pick this index which is more wider, which covers upcoming private players also, which covers smaller companies also, which are into drone manufacturing, etc. It is similar to उमेश की AI में पहले हम लोग जब टेक की बात करते थे तो एप्पल की बात करते थे. But now
Right.
when we talk about investment at this point of time, we are talking about Nvidia's becoming more relevant, Broadcom, etc., becoming more relevant. So I think what BSE has created is more future proof and is more relevant to where this defense industry is moving. And don't listen to me, just listen to the government, which says that we need to move away from just PSU players and involve private players for defense industry to truly scale up in India.
Interesting. So if I to summarize, you can it's right to say that it is more future ready, more futuristic the way passives are. I think it is more from a what will evolve, what will unfold in future. I think we are already looking for those companies, right? Great move. I think that answer of yours, maybe Siddharth, I would like to go to again back to Ashutosh. Ashutosh, like Siddharth mentioned that the way index has been created, the way you have included companies from keeping future in mind. Maybe can you just add few points here that how does the index seek to provide ideal representation of different players and segments of Indian defense industry? Because as we all know that it is not, as Siddharth also mentioned, it is not only limited to PSUs. Now private players are also entering, and government is keen to do that. So what is your thought, or what is actually the ideal representation which this index has done? Ashutosh, you are on mute.
Yeah, Umesh, sorry. So I was saying that, yeah, that's a very good question. And in fact, our job as an index company is first of all to keep scanning the landscape, investment landscape, try to identify good opportunities for retail investors to participate in. So, like I said, we saw a very powerful theme, which is a defense theme, but also at the same time an economic theme. The idea for us was to bring it to life in terms of making it accessible, measurable, and actionable for the retail investor. And that is typically exactly what an investor index company is supposed to do. So once we kind of identified the theme and launched the index, then it was basically about also trying to make it actionable from an investment standpoint, and then that basically calls into the equation factors such as liquidity, such as the free float market cap of the companies. So given all that, we felt that just going for the core industries, the three industries, would kind of narrow the investment universe, which is why we went beyond just the core industries. Maybe as the market matures, we can have a slight shift in the strategy. But at this point, given the liquidity, given the free float of of all the companies that we choose in the index company, uh, we decided to include also a defense enabler portion, which maybe, like as Siddharth rightly pointed out, is maybe missing in some of the peer indices that are around on the same theme. So that kind of gives us a slightly broader universe, so which is why we have 34 constituents in our index versus, let's say, a 20 or sub 20 number in the other indices that are there on a similar theme. And specifically, what we've done is in the core, since they belong to the three basic industries which are associated 100% with defense. In the core, we have given a capping of 15% for a constituent. So no constituent can be more than 15% in our index if they belong to the core category, and the core itself makes up for about 75% of the overall index. And in the non-core, which is 25% of the overall index, no single constituent can be more than 5%. And through this approach, by factoring in liquidity, free float, core, plus the defense enabler portion, what we have in terms of a size mix is about 61% is large cap, and about 38-39% is mid and small cap. So, I mean, this approach has kind of ensured that it is still a dominant large cap oriented index. And at the same time, it's completely true to the index theme. So that's the approach that we followed, Umesh, in this one.
Perfect. I think it's a good blend of, I think, current large cap or maybe the future large cap companies which can become depending on how they perform and behave. Great. So Siddharth, I would like to come to you again. We are hearing a lot of, I'm sure it's everywhere now, what the kind of global geopolitical situation is, and every day, every person has some question in mind. I just want to add there also, we are into environment which is where the geopolitical tensions or geopolitical situation is is reshaping the supply chain, right? From Indo Pacific to say Europe, India is increasingly seen a reliable strategic partner, which has opened export opportunities for aircraft, ships, missile system. Global tensions, which are basically often the accelerated procurement cycle or defense spending. So, I mean, there are multiple things. There are a few points we just wanted to highlight here. So, what do you think? How will these global geopolitical influence Indian defense companies going forward from here? I mean, since as an investor, if I also invest, I
Yeah.
believe the global geopolitical tension should play an important role. Maybe I just want to hear from you. What is your view on that?
Yeah. So let's draw parallel, right?
Okay.
Why semiconductors performed so well, or AI companies performed so well last 2 3 years? Because we believe that AI adoption will take place. There is no doubt about it, right?
Yeah.
And AI uses semiconductor, and semiconductor did well. So there's no doubt about it. I think same parlance, and why Apple did well, because uh, everyone is going to buy phones, etc., and that story obviously played out very well. I think same story will play out and is playing out in defense also. In last 4 5 years, the number of conflicts we have seen is more than what we have seen in last 30 40 50 years on an aggregate basis, right? The point is that you need to have deterrence, you need to have both in terms of defensive weapons and offensive weapons, uh, just to be safe, right? And be confident that you can take care of any geopolitical escalations. We live in a neighborhood where we are surrounded by countries which are uh, not very friendly with India, if I can say that. So, and also one very important thing which Umesh has happened, that entire rule has changed.
Yeah.
So पिच तो थी, लेकिन वहां पे अभी जो खेल खेल चल रहा था, both in army, in navy, in air force, the tech has changed significantly, right? When it comes to air force, we are talking about drones, we are talking about stealth. When it comes to army, we are talking about missiles, etc., which can be shot from surface to air, etc., and obviously shooting down drones. When it comes to naval assets, we are talking about long range weapons. Even in current crisis, US aircraft carriers are so far away from where the actual conflict is, but they are still participating. So entire tech and rule book has changed. Why I'm saying all this? That similar to AI and similar to IT, where rules are changing, and hence players who are participating in this evolution have done so well, same thing will happen and is happening in defense also, right? You have to spend, and you have to spend on new tech. If you already spent 20 years back, that thing is already obsolete, right? And India is spending right now 7.85 lakh crores of budget this time, which is significant, 15% increase from YOY, is because that we not only need to procure weapons, but we need to upgrade also. Out of that, 2.2 is for capital outlay, and out of that, 1.85 lakh crore is for capital acquisition. So this India is procuring around 2% of its GDP. It is there on the defense side. Defense budget is almost 2% of GDP. I think the importance and the outlay, especially on the capital acquisition, will increase, because we need more of everything, and more importantly, we need upgraded technology, the relevant technology of everything. I think right now everyone is following what is happening in Middle East. Every third, fourth day, we are listening about a new missile which is being uh, sorts of launched for the first time by Iran, or new weapon which is being unleashed. Status quo cannot be there, and that is why defense is important. That is why, like Ashutosh was mentioning, that the players who are doing new things, innovating, evolving, companies which are there in small cap or mid cap who are into drone, etc. are very important, very key players, and I think that is where most of the growth is going to come from.
Perfect. So I think so. What I could gather from what you just explained is that obviously innovation is the key. Tech is something which is going to lead, and you might have new companies getting listed, which are maybe not listed now, or maybe
And
in coming
also,
future.
Umesh, sorry to interrupt. One
Hmm.
thing which is also happening, and very proud to say it right now, that recently Philippines acquired BrahMos, something which is manufactured in India. Stories coming out that Indonesia is acquiring BrahMos. Armenia is acquiring our Pinaka rocket system. There is no conversation, while it is far-fetched, I know, of France probably acquiring some of our missiles also. There is a conversation of we creating drones which might be used by Israel. Obviously, it's their technology, but production happening in India. So
Hmm.
it's not just catering to our own defense. If you look at the data,
Hmm.
last year we did 1.5 lakh crore worth of domestic manufacturing. What Ashutosh also mentioned is important. We exported 23,000 crores, and that is going to increase. And out of this 1.5 lakh manufacturing, 30,000 crores was done by private players. So
Wow.
both the role of private players is increasing and is very important. And it's not just, Umesh, domestic manufacturing or domestic consumption. See, India is in a very strong position of not being, let's say, considered as a power which can come and bite you also, like what is considered of US or even China. India is more neutral, more safer supplier. So if India does well and is able to provide ammunitions and arms and export, I think more countries will come and obviously latch on to it. So we are going to see growth not only in domestic consumption, domestic industry, but also for the export use also.
Excellent.
So if I could just add to what Siddharth mentioned, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously on the offensive side, so in defense, you have to build offensive capabilities, defensive capabilities. While I hope and pray that countries don't have to use them, but if it comes to that, at least you have to be prepared. So he spoke about BrahMos, but the defensive side, and like I said, it was combat tested in the Operation Sindoor. The whole multi-layered Akash defense systems, which basically, they drone detect, they drone deter, and they don't drone destroy. So basically, the whole detect, deter, destroy defense capabilities, multi-layered defense capabilities. India has kind of proven its prowess even in that area, and that was obviously, there for everyone to see in just about a year ago. So yeah, that is just a quick
Excellent.
point on how we are also working tirelessly on building the multi-layered defense capabilities on the defense side.
Yeah, I think so. My next question, maybe what Siddharth just said, I just want to ask you that question, which just came in my mind, because he mentioned that tech is going to drive things, and maybe tomorrow we have new listings, new companies coming up. How this index is future ready from that perspective? Maybe you can throw light a little bit about rebalancing or new listings or anything. Maybe you just want to know because tomorrow if companies changes or universe changes, how this index is going to behave.
Sure, Umesh. So, since the time we have been running the index company as a wholly owned subsidiary of BSE,
Mm.
which is now coming close to 2 years, we brought in a lot of innovation in the way we launch indices, the type of indices we launch, and even the methodologies. So, for example, we brought in a change uh, some 6 months ago to our all cap index, because most of our indices flow on the equity side from the all cap index, which is roughly 1,200, 1,300 constituents. So in the all cap index, and then obviously from the all cap you have your 1,000, you have other indices also that flow from all cap. So all cap becomes the most important index from that point of view. So in the all cap index, there is a provision where we include stocks on a monthly basis. So there is monthly addition, while the full-fledged reconstitution and rebalance for most indices happen on a semi-annual basis. But in all cap, there are additions that we do to the index to basically take care of the exact scenarios you're talking about, like new IPOs, new listings, new demergers, so on and so forth. So just to take into account these kind of scenarios, we have basically incorporated this provision in our all cap index. And when the other indices go through their regular reconstitution and rebalance exercises, which could be quarterly, 6 monthly, in the case of defense index, the rebalancing, because this is a capped index based on free float methodology, the rebalancing happens every quarter, and the reconstitution, where we scan the whole universe and look at inclusions exclusions. So that happens every 6 months. But since all this also flows from all cap, and if all cap was not the methodology in all cap was not changed through this additional provision, then maybe a company to get included would have taken sometimes 6 months, sometimes 12 months. But since we have this monthly inclusion provision in the all cap index, chances are that when a defense index comes up for its review, and since defense is taking stocks from 1000 and 1000 is taking from all cap, the new listings would already be a part of the all cap index, will flow down to 1000, will and from 1000 flow down to the defense index. So that happens in a more timely fashion. So this is how we are basically bringing in a sense of swiftness and promptness to new inclusions that happen either through the demerger route or through IPO route or spin-off route, etc.
Perfect. Just one more question, maybe Ashutosh, with you. Just came in my mind. So there are, as we agree, that there are now, as we speak, there are many companies which are not listed, but they are playing important role in terms of defense, like Siddharth mentioned about Adani and all that. So,
Absolutely.
is there any space for those companies also? Have you considered, or what is the thought behind? Maybe what do you thought about those companies which are not listed? Maybe today not listed, they list after 2 year, 3 year, I don't know. But today, are we going to, are we, looking at those companies also?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in fact, just to illustrate this point, there is Adani, right? Adani Defense Systems and Technologies.
Yeah.
It is a company that is not listed. So, when we, in our approach where we spoke about, 75% constituents coming from the basic industries, the three basic industries. So that purely come from the listed space. When we are also looking at the SIDM, which is, a manual, a list which comes up every year. So when we look at the SIDM list, there are many companies that we find are doing good work in the defense space. If those companies are not listed, then we look at parentage of those companies. So as long as we can link it back to a company that owns these unlisted entities, and as long as the parentage or the parent is a listed entity, we include the parent. Therefore, so
Oh,
which means that even through the SIDM approach, through scanning the SIDM list, we are trying to identify companies that are not listed today, but are obviously having a significant play in the defense area. We try to link it back to some parentage, and as long as the parentage can be linked back to a company that is in the listed space, it will find its way into the index indirectly by getting the parent included in the index. But since it comes from the non-core portion, the weightage assigned will be slightly lower. But just to answer your question specifically, there is already in the methodology provision for us to include companies that are in the non-listed space by getting their parents included that are in the listed space.
interesting. So, net, what we are saying is that if we are not leaving those companies behind, whatever exposure we can get, we are trying to get that exposure also, right?
Absolutely.
So, fair. Maybe just, Siddharth, now comes the important question, maybe, which is again in everybody's mind. Aren't we feel that these valuations are high, or do you feel these valuations are justified when it comes to defense companies? Many companies you see are doing pretty well. So what is your take on that?
No, so very fair point. When we are looking at the data, defense PE is roughly around 48. If you are looking at from a 12-month forward point of view. But see, anything which has reasonable growth expectations typically trade at a PE premium. So let's do one thing. Why not compare what is happening in US and Europe when it comes to defense segment as a whole, right? So when I'm looking at data, S&P 500 is trading at 25 PE, and this is Jan data. So obviously market has gone down, so changes will be there, but I think ballpark will remain same. S&P 500 is at around 25. The Dow Jones US Select Aerospace and Defense Index is at 56. So 25 versus 56. So broad market 25, defense at 56. When I'm looking at stocks, total market index, which is a European index, again a broad market index, total market, its 12-month forward PE is 17.7. The stocks Europe total market aerospace and defense index, Europe का defense index
Mm-hmm.
is at 38. So 17.7 versus
58.
38. And when it comes to India, I've already mentioned that Nifty is around 20 to 23, same as Sensex. And when we are looking at Sensex index, it's around 47, 48. So we are seeing a reasonable premium being built in these defense companies, defense indices, to an extent justified because of the earnings growth we are seeing and the long path to uh, increase in production, increase in revenue, etc. We see for most of these companies, right? For example, what is happening right now is globally people are going to procure more drones
Yeah.
and more anti-drones weapons, especially which cost less. Same is happening in India. India is procuring more and more drones. India is also building more and more BrahMos, and India is also trying to figure out how drone defense can be improved by smaller cost missiles taking down drones itself. So we are talking about everyone building capabilities, and that is why these companies are trading at higher multiples because growth in earnings which are projected for next 5 to 10 years is significant. And I think, Umesh, when anyone is going to invest at these valuation, it is also very important to see, and I think Ashutosh will also agree, you have to think. So whenever you invest in theme, you invest early and you invest till the theme is mature, right? वही आपको एक glide path देता है. When themes mature, it gives you market returns or sub market returns. I think Indian defense industry will is still in a very nascent stage. We do not have a capability to make our own jet engines. We don't have a capability to make stealth aircrafts. Tejas Mk1A, which has been talked about since years, has not been delivered. We do not have capability to manufacture nuclear submarines or really high-end drones also, to be honest. So all those things has to start developing in India because that's the only way forward. One thing which I like to point out, and again, it's more on the politics side, why India didn't go with US in terms of procuring a high-end 4.5 generation aircraft, because India is afraid that anytime though that country can cut the wings and stop supply and keep India on its whims and fancies. So it is important to reduce your dependency on external provider. For example, India was dependent on Russia, and Russia itself is engaged in a conflict. How can it service the needs of our nation, which is also very, very important and sits in a very critical area surrounded by, as we mentioned. So there's no option but to develop our industry, and that is what government is focusing on. And Umesh, that is why we are seeing government trying to move away from dependency on few defense provider, even though they are PSU companies, they want more players to participate. So I think in terms of Production increase, government has talked about that. अभी last year 1.5 लाख करोड़ था. They want 29 को 3 लाख करोड़ का domestic production, 2x from last year to 29. And last कुछ सालों में in terms of defense procurement, indigenous procurement is almost 80%. Last year it was 80%. Even in this budget, government has said that we will procure 1.85 lakh crores, out of which 75% will be done from domestic companies. So all these is going to increase. We will expand our domestic defense production. We'll do more exports. We'll produce and create more in India. And hence, I think the valuations, while on the higher side, has a reason behind it. Having said that, whosoever is coming right now has to come from that at least 3 to 5 year point of view, because once these private companies start mature हो करके वो weapons deliver करती हैं, then only you will end up realizing their true potential, and hopefully that will reflect in their stock prices, etc.
Perfect. So I think since we are not having much time, so I'll just quickly ask one question to both of you, which is about your personal investment. Though we talked about a lot of about defense, and we understood one thing, that index is definitely a superior one. It has more futuristic approach. It covers more companies than the existing one, which Siddharth just touched upon. So maybe Ashutosh, at this time, maybe we since you are managing the index and all, what do you feel if you have to invest? Would you consider defense for your own personal investments? You on mute.
Umesh, sorry, yeah, I was saying I put my money where my mouth is, and I will consider. I've already invested.
Wow.
So since I mean there are not too many options available on the defense index today, I have
Yeah.
investments in the fund that you guys have launched already.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. Great. That's a good news. So, Siddharth, what do you want to say in this same question?
Sure. As of now, I like two segments a lot, and you know that, Umesh, because we talk a lot on this. Within manufacturing, so I used to like manufacturing a lot. Now, within manufacturing, I preferred defense, and then consumer discretionary is one thing which I like from a long term.
More long term thing. Perfect. Very nice. So maybe we'll quickly take questions now from the audience. So we have first question. Maybe it is for you, Ashutosh. The question is, he wants to know, investor wants to know that as we understand that index funds are on the back-tested data. So for this index, we can get data till what? I mean, how many years the data is there, which we can see as and when we want, and where we can see this?
So back tested data. So our index was launched with a base value of 2017. So which means we have back tested the index for roughly 8 years.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, if the investor writes to us, and if this is an individual investor, then maybe we can make some of the data available. Either he can get in touch with you guys, and you guys can provide some of the data points that we share. But it's possible. Let he can write to
Or
us.
or or he can refer to our presentation. I think we have provided
Okay.
calendar year, all the data's returns. I think that is what he if he wants to refer to. So that's there on our presentation, leaflet, etc. So you can visit our website and you can access those materials. Sorry, Ashutosh, just providing that
Yeah,
where he
yeah,
can get that data
yeah,
directly.
correct.
Yeah. Perfect. So, Siddharth, there's one question which is obviously related to this fund also, and it's all for ETF. The investor wants to know that if you can throw some light on INAV
Yeah.
while buying an ETF on the market, and maybe how it is important, what investors should keep in mind while buying
Yeah.
ETFs.
No, so great question. So INAV is the real-time net asset value. Whatever is the real-time price of the underlying stocks, उससे आपका ETF की price निकाली जाती है on a real-time basis पे. I think so. I'll talk about ourselves because we are talking about our fund. You can access INAV on our website. or you can use that. I think INAV is also displayed on exchange website also, but definitely it is there on our website. So you can refer to that and put your buy or sell order around that price. Or for example, let's say if INAV is 65 and market price is around 65, you can be rest assured that trade is happening around INAV level and you can execute your order. Just do one thing, put a limit order. So that will ensure that whatever quantum you are buying at a right level. So typically, whenever if you buy this ETF or any ETF, always use limit order, limit price.
Perfect. So I'll urge audience to put their questions in Q&A box. If they have any question related to this product or any other product related to ETFs, we would like to answer those also. So there's one more question. Maybe Siddharth, you can answer it. The question is again not with this for this fund, but they are the investors asking that can you explain your multi-cap ETF, which does not consist best performing small cap? I don't know. So he just want to know more about multi-cap ETF because which I'm sure one of your favorite, you always talk about that, Siddharth,
Yes,
right?
I think I will also relate that with defense. There's a peer index which captures companies well, but it is top heavy. And then what BSE has created, we believe, is more future proof. Captures 34 companies from 1,000 stocks. Similarly, when it comes to taking a broad market exposure, I believe now that multi-cap category is the best way to take exposure in broad market. So we have launched multi-cap ETF. It consists of all 100 large cap stocks, all 150 mid cap stocks, and all 250 small cap stocks in a proportion of 50, 25, 25 in terms of weightage. So 100 large cap stocks का weight होता है 50%, 150 mid cap stocks का weight होता है 25% and 250 mid cap small cap stocks का weight होता है 25%. In this way, how is it different from BSE 500 or Nifty 500? Those are large cap buyers. Usme almost 70% plus is large cap and remaining is mid cap and then less is small cap. Here, you're getting reasonable representation to mid and small cap also of 25% each. I don't know why he's saying that we are missing some small cap stocks because, like I mentioned, it captures all 250 small cap stocks. Nothing is missed out in terms of large, mid, and small buckets.
Perfect. We have another question which says that just a moment. Yeah. So we have question.
I can see two, three very interesting questions.
Yeah. So you can see maybe you can answer on your own
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, so I'll take two of those. So I was expecting there'll be some question on gold and silver. So I'll take that in the end. So please please be patient. Uh, one question by Amrish is that global tensions are due to Trump policies. If Trump goes away, how this index will work? Please throw some light. See, I don't agree with that. Yes, the gentleman has escalated global geopolitical tensions significantly. But sadly, the neighborhood where we are in, tensions have always been there, right? Look at the amount of skirmishes we have had with our neighboring countries. For example, Galwan crisis happened when Biden was there. Skirmishes with and conflicts with Pakistan always used to happen irrespective whether Democrat or Republican is sitting in the White House. So it's not dependent there. What we are saying is that war theater has evolved significantly and our neighborhoods are flying J-17 and J-10. They already have fifth generation aircraft. They're talking about sixth generation. So I think irrespective of which gentleman is ruling the White House, the geopolitical reality for India doesn't look like changing, at least in its neighborhood. Uh, Also, one very quickly on on gold and silver, I think we can
So
take
before
further.
that,
Yeah.
Siddharth, just one more question. I think I just got it. I just want so that you can add there also. The question is, can BSC Defense ETF be used as a satellite allocation in diversified portfolio, or what allocation would you generally suggest?
So I think Ashutosh, if you want to take this, you can take it. Otherwise, I'll answer.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So, I mean, when it comes to doing core and satellite, here I can share what I personally believe in.
Yeah,
So,
please.
I think uh, broad market indices should form part of your core allocation, because then you're not really getting into themes, narrow and niche segments. So broad market should be ideally, a predominant part of your portfolio. And defense, since it's a very compelling theme, so for the reasons which Siddharth pointed out, and maybe I can just add one line to that. That honestly, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. It is basically about India achieving self-sufficiency, and in the current times we live in, war, no war, what cannot be taken for granted is your capabilities to have offensive and defensive, defense equipments. When the time comes, at least you're totally prepared. So I don't see, I don't see the thrust on investments in these areas coming off really. So the thrust will be there for some time to come, for in fact a long time to come. So given that it is a very very compelling theme, so yeah, it should definitely be. I mean, as a theme, it makes a lot of sense, and it's up to your risk appetite entirely. Because somebody also pointed out the P multiple, somebody, and being an equity investment, it is subject to swings, wild swings sometimes. But I mean, in my case, I've already considered this investment to be a part of my satellite allocation. I've allocated some amount of money in this, and being a very compelling theme, I think it makes sense for anyone to look at this uh, for their for some part of their allocation.
So Ashutosh, just a counter question on this. Are you investing, which is good to hear. So you investing lump sum, or you going through SIP in this fund?
So, since I'm in the market, I mean, for the retail customers at large, nothing beats SIP. You don't
Sure.
want to, really sit and time the market. You don't have the bandwidth because I'm sure you are
Yeah.
busy in your professional endeavors. So, given that, I think for the retail customer, SIP is the best way to approach equity markets. However, in my case, I sometimes, when I look at the markets and I see big corrections, I get greedy then, and I,
Correct.
kind of
Yeah. So I think Ashutosh is very busy these days deploying money
Absolutely. Yes,
in the market.
he is busy.
What a
So
great
Siddharth,
problem to have.
what do you do?
put some allocations whenever the market is. That's the time I definitely themes or in sector.
I think there
Over to
was some,
you. Yeah.
yeah. So great thing, Ashutosh. I think we are jealous of you that you get to deploy money. Umesh, sadly, my phone is deposited and I cannot access my phone
No
during
worries.
business hours.
That's
So
fine.
I am unable to take advantage of intraday volatility, etc. But having said that, and that is why sadly intraday ETF purchase I'm not able to do. But I also take advantage of market dips. I think if you have conviction over the market, and I personally believe that if the issue is created due to external events and domestically things looks okay, I think that's more of an opportunity to deploy when markets correct. So when we are looking at earnings rebounding, government focusing on consumption, etc., rebounding because of tax cuts, etc. Uh, if war does not continue for long, I think this correction is a very good opportunity to invest at these levels, right? So अभी एक डेढ़ महीने पहले we were comfortable with 25,000 level plus 25. We are talking about 26,000. So if I'm getting something below 24,000, why shouldn't I purchase, right? Sorry, Ashutosh, I'm talking about Nifty numbers. I can convert that into Sensex
No,
now,
no worries.
So,
but the story remains the same. Yeah.
Fair point. So
This
there is,
one, last
yeah,
word on this. I mean, like they always say, you should always consult your investment advisor because
absolutely.
he's the one who understands your context best, your financial context, your personal context, the goals of life you're chasing, the stage of life you're at. So it's always best to do a comprehensive study, before you jump in and do investments.
Very good. So there's one more question which is pretty interesting. Maybe any of you can answer. Is that it is about risk. The question is about what are the key risk investors should be aware of before investing into defense themes like defense.
So maybe I can take a quick stab at this, and then Siddharth also can add his comments.
Sure.
I think the key risks, are not very different from the risk associated with any other thematic index or any other sectoral index. In a downturn, you have to be prepared for a 20-30% correction if it happens in a very short period of time. So that is what we've seen generally. I mean, whenever there is negative sentiment, when the market corrects sharply, you should have it in you to stomach a 20% fall and not be like really perturbed. So as long as you are in it for the long haul, equity investment always make a lot of sense. Uh, Whether it's India or anywhere else around the world, I think equity investments have really done well over longish time frames. Uh, and yeah, as long as you can ride the volatility, take those dips without losing a sense of balance, then it is a good investment for you to consider.
Of- Siddharth, what do you say?
Yeah, no, I think very rightly said. In case of themes, sectors, as soon as you move away from broad market investment, you are looking for higher returns, but that will always come with higher volatility. So defense will obviously have defense is especially volatile. Couple of two very important points. I was always very conscious of other index players portfolio because it's very top heavy, and I get very scared when you have only two three companies driving the index, because any correction there can lead to significant drawdown in the portfolio. Here we have in a way mitigated that by capping companies at 15% instead of 20%, so that is somewhat mitigated, but risk remains. See, ultimately, these companies have to deliver, right? We can talk about the Kaveri jet engine, that project. I'm a very avid defense follower, so it's being thought about since late 1980s, and we still don't have a fighter jet engine, right? So HAL has failed to provide Tejas Mk1A, delaying by quarter on quarter every. So all these things are risk that ultimately potential is there. We hope it's, and that's why it is important that more players are participating. 34 है, तीन चार फेल भी हो गए तो इशू नहीं है. देर आर अदर प्लेयर्स हु आर गिविंग. अगर 15 का स्टॉक का पोर्टफोलियो एंड 5 स्टॉक फेल हो गए, देन इट इज अ बिगर रिस्क. सो दैट्स आई लाइक अ बिट दिस broader portfolio. So risk of non-delivery is there, but hopefully government is focusing so much and allowing participation from so many players that hopefully this issue will be taken care of and hence stay invested for longer period of time.
Perfect. I think with that, maybe there are many more questions, but
Umesh,
you,
I
yeah, one
will
gold
just
silver
because
you want to answer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because people
Sorry.
log in or to also hear us about precious metals. I think there are two questions. I'll hardly take some time. There's one question on gold and silver ETFs always trade above INAV. How to get the right price for buy and sell when they are on high volatile time. So again, the person has not given his name. So see, please understand, gold and silver ETF track spot prices and not MCX futures prices. So whatever discrepancy you see कि MCX future 1% up है, spot might be trading at a 2000 3000 rupees discount. You can access, come to our website. We display INAV and update INAV on a pretty regular basis. You can refer to that ETF price and trade around those levels. So I think we and most of the players pricing में issue नहीं है. Issue is कि आप किससे compare कर रहे हैं. If you compare it with LBMA, it's an international price. If you compare it with MCA, it's a future price. Spot is completely different. So come to our website, check the INAV, and then you can buy and sell. Lastly, one person has asked very interesting question, Umesh, is where should we invest, gold or silver or defense? I think all three are completely different. Gold right now is, I think, a very good hedge, right? पिछले 2 साल गोल्ड में हमने इन्वेस्ट किया है वैल्यू क्रिएशन के लिए, बट राइट नाउ आई फील दैट मोर देन वैल्यू क्रिएशन गोल्ड इज अ गुड हेज. आई थिंक 51-5200 डेविल्स, अगर आपको थोड़े से सस्ते में मिलता है तो यू कैन लुक एट गोल्ड depending on your asset allocation. Gold is a good hedge. Silver at these level around 90. It depends which way silver go. We believe that silver will uh, still can go can for try to find a support around 70, can go up till 9700. So you have to be a bit nimble around silver if you want to invest right now. We are cautious on silver. Defense is a long-term theme of, like I mentioned, 5-7 years. It's on the stock. It's completely different to what gold and silver investment is.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. I think it's an hour. We have discussed a lot about defense, about starting from the index to the view and the valuations and what how investors should approach this theme. I think thank you so much to both of you for your time and your thoughts. Or thanks to all the audience also. Only one thing. This is a very interesting theme at this time, but always look at your risk appetite. Always, if possible, discuss with your advisor or whom you want to discuss with, because these are the themes, and as Siddharth and Ashutosh mentioned, there may be volatility. Please consider that in mind. Also, whenever invest, please invest for a longer horizon, because India is just started walking. I think we can always bet longer for India. So with that, thank you so much all of you for participating, for listening to us. We'll come back again soon with